So one of the things that I wanted to highlight about our TOEFL programs is the richness of the individualized instruction, right? Our programs um, tend to be used by, very few districts. However, these districts really prioritize the needs of their international educators. And so what we need them to do is to pass the TOEFL exam so that they can begin their certification process. And so first they have to prove up their ability in English. And so in that, we need to, of course, prepare them for that. And that's going to be working on their listening, their speaking, their reading, and their writing. And in that time, I provide personalized instruction, of course, based on my reading background and my English language arts and Spanish language arts background. I'm able to meet the needs of the teachers. And then, of course, as a former writing teacher for so many years and curriculum writer in the area of language arts, both English and Spanish language arts, um, I'm able to really diversify and give them what they need based on what I see expressed. And every adult is different, right? Because people come with different sets of knowledge and skills. And so I believe that as personalized instruction as possible is key if we're really seeking impact and passing scores on this TOEFL exam, because the TOEFL exam is a critical exam. Like there are teachers that are on their H-1B visas that are here because of their their jobs, and so their jobs are contingent. And they came from out of the country. Their jobs are contingent on the performance on this exam. So let's go ahead and jump in. So this one, and this is just yesterday's session, right? This is one of the educators that we worked with. And so they provided us a writing piece. And through the writing piece, I'm able to see what some of their spelling structures are, or any just writing structures, any of the writing needs. I look for things like, that any writing teacher would look for, things like the use of grammar, spelling, elaboration, the formatting of writing. Like, did you begin with like a strong thesis statement? Did you develop it? Did you have examples and supports to justify your thinking? Did you summarize and repeat, your ideas in that conclusive um, paragraph there at the end? And so we're looking at so many factors in the writing. And so when we look at these factors, sometimes we have spelling errors or grammar errors that might interfere with even looking at the bigger piece. So you kind of have to peel it back. It's like an onion. You have to peel back the layers, right? And so what I noticed in it is this educator actually had a really good use of the language. I would say on a 1 to 10, I usually use a 1 to 5 on TOEFL. So on a 1 to 5, this person probably had a 3.5 in terms of the words that they used, right? And the only problem is that they are still working on their spelling and formalizing their academic knowledge of the language. And so we have just some of the words that they may have misspelled on that activity, and we've broken it down into tier 1 and tier 2. So our tier 1 vocabulary is like social vocabulary. It's the language that we use every day. And then a tier 2 vocabulary is like a more academic vocabulary. And of course, like on the TOEFL exam, this is the vocabulary that I'm looking for people to get as close to mastering. So I like to have them have it I developed a bank of tier 2 vocabulary. And of course, our tier 1 vocabulary needs to be consistently accurate and used appropriately. And so then, if all of this is correct, and then we add in a healthy layer of tier 2 vocabulary, then their communication skills are going to be much higher on the exam. Okay, so another thing that I do once I look at some of the type of errors that the people are making is I look at the type of spelling error. So for here, I see that they're struggling with the diphthongs, right? And so I can see the U, I, E, A, O, U, like these tend to pose a problem, the AU. And so I wrote them correctly, but I had them on top of that highlight and put a line above the vowel sounds. And then of course the consonant patterns and the consonant spelling patterns, I had them underlined just so they can see. So we kind of went through and we added visual supports to help them recognize like the AU. This is a diphthong, right? And so we're looking at the line on top because of its vowel pattern. The IO, same thing. The EO and research, EA, right? The UI, we underlined it, but overlined it, I guess. And then we have the EA, we overlined it, right? And the OU, we overlined it because these are all diphthongs. And then we have hit here like the IGHT, which is another unique spelling pattern. So this would have been in theory. I think I overlined it because it makes like an I sound. Then we had, of course, like other which first, right? So it's the WH and which. And it's even really working on their auditory recognition of the WH versus the W. So we spent some time just working on auditory recognition, and you'll see that here in a minute. And then we have, of course, the iris, the double L here, right? And then the TCH spelling pattern that I underlined because, yeah, I mean, I need them to see that real explicitly so that they can recognize it and be able to reproduce it. Um, Again, the ANCE, the LEGE, like ledge, right? So these are the types of things that we did is we worked on their spelling patterns. And then based on that, I wanted to talk to him a little bit about um, some of the spelling rules, right? And so we talked about the difference of like when do you repeat a um, a consonant sound? When do you double that letter? And so we were talking about how it happens when you have like the vowel consonant pattern. Mhm. And here we see this you add a suffix onto it, right? And so then you double that. So here you have tipped, ripped, hopped, mopping, shopping, right? And then like little, I told them is another example. And then we talked about the silent E pattern, which, if you add that silent E at the end, then this vowel in this vowel consonant E pattern, this vowel becomes a long vowel. But of course, that means nothing if you don't teach long vowels. So I spent a little bit of time kind of highlighting it here, but I wanted to redo it. And so I redid it in the following page. But this is just another spelling pattern. So I wanted them to see that when you have ends like at the end of the word, and I told them there can be exceptions, but generally speaking, we have like dance, attendance, instance, friends, distance. And I guess I could have put the word distance in there, so you have distance. And then you have transfer. So when it's here in the middle of a word, that's going to be an S. So that was interesting. So I don't think I've ever said that before. Anyway, so then we worked a little bit on the long and short vowels in English, and I remember there being this option. So when I think of like the soft vowels, I think of the Spanish vowels, a, e, I, o, u, and then we have the long and the short, and then there's some carryover right between like these two. And I was looking in the standard, I guess what's standard now for the vowel sounds, and it's funny because they only put the long and the short out there. That's all I see on the internet. But we have the soft A, the ah. So here we have a, and ah. So I don't understand why more resources don't use that soft vowel space. Anyway, I use it. So on the long vowel, we have that, I told them, indicated by a line. Then we have the short vowel indicated by a little, I'm sure these have other words in linguist world. Um, and I told them a little copita, like a little cup. And then I said the soft has the double, the dots on top. So when we have the long sounds, we have A, E, I, O, U, and I mentioned that these, of course, repeat the name of the letter. They say their name. And then we have the short, which is A, E, I, uh. And so people tend to struggle with the short, especially Spanish speakers learning English. They tend to struggle distinguishing the because it does not exist in Spanish. So they will hear ah. So they'll say like cat instead of cat. So we really work on that short A. And the same thing happens for the I. So I'm going to put a little star here, right? I think I need another pen. But we're going to put a little star there because these two tend to be sounds that people struggle with in the process of learning English. And then we have the I sound. And we have to connect it to things that they already know. So when I'm teaching the short A, I tend to teach it through, like, I think of a tongue depressor. I said, when you go to the doctor and they put a tongue depressor on your tongue, what sound is made? And they go, ah, well, that's it. And then we have the like what happens if you step on a bug, right? Well, that's the sound And I know that it's kind of culturally relative, but we're just gonna go with it. And then we have the which sometimes the can cause a little bit of problems because they want to say ooh. I'm like, no, this is an and so they actually show them where on the throat the and how the mouth opens up because when you're looking at language and you're looking at diction, you want to be sure that people are pronouncing it the way that it is said as near native as possible. So we also worked, for example, I'm going to put this on the side, the hard T and the soft T, and we'll come back to that in a minute. So yeah, in English, we have about 16 vowel sounds. And to, I mean, yes, we transfer in 5 when our bilingual learners that have mastered literacy in Spanish, when they come in to learning English, they have mastered 5. But somebody somewhere, which I would hope would be the English language arts teacher, or even the ESL teacher, or even the SLAR teacher, the Spanish language arts teacher, somebody needs to be teaching these long vowels. Because look, I'm working with adults, and these people are professionals. They have university degrees, right, from their countries of origin. So if these people struggle with understanding long and short production, how much more would a child struggle that is still getting those essential knowledge and skills, right? Those elementary knowledge and skills. I'm a huge advocate for Spanish in dual language programs and maintaining those Spanish blocks and going into that depth and complexity in the rigor, even as far as promoting Spanish assessment for our dual language students so that we can ensure that we have strong Spanish fidelity so that our students can develop cognitively as well as linguistically, right? But I also am a huge advocate for making sure that biliteracy is feasible. Like biliteracy, we understand they're going to be decoding, right? And all of their language is going to transfer from English into, I'm from some Spanish into English. But what do we do with these extraneous vowel sounds that don't exist in Spanish? So when they transfer in, they only transfer in 5 vowel sounds into English, which has over 15. So somebody has to teach these. And I would argue whoever teaches them is probably going to have to be at every grade level, because whenever you have new English learners coming into the schools, you can't assume that they got it the year before if they just now enrolled in schools this year. Okay, so then we worked on some spelling rules, and you know, I said, okay, so we have an old spelling rule, and it was when two vowels go walking, right? The first one does the talking. And he was like, oh, that makes so much sense. Like, how come they didn't teach it to me like that? I'm like, well, because they probably don't even teach it like that in school anymore. I don't even know what they're doing. Like, so anyway, so I said, when two vowels go walking, the first one does the talking. And so, and that is supposed to be an O. And that I give them some examples, right? We have the AI, right? And then I was like, well, this is a little different. The UI is like I, so, And then I put here a long I sound. And then I said another spelling rule is I before E except after C, and then as an A as in neighbor and way, or wait. And then I gave him some other little questions where I said, so for example, if I have the word thief, how would you spell it? And I had him dictate that to me. And if I had the word receive, how would you spell it? And he had to think about that for a second. And then it was like, yeah, that would be EI because it comes after a C. So, I mean, people struggle with this not for, and I had that conversation with it. It's not for lack of competence, right? It's for lack of opportunity. Another thing that I noticed was them struggling the hearing the like having that sound auditory recognition of some of these digraphs, like wha, ch, fa, the, and sh. So again, I'm kind of I am making reference to Spanish speakers that are learning English, and I'm also making reference to adults, but the same language patterns exist for young people. Anyway, so I wanted him to hear the well, like the WH, and how it's different than well. Like a well where you have your water, right, in the well. Or oh well, right? That's very different than well. And I said it's almost like it leads with the H. When you hear it, it sounds like you're leading with the H. It's like a well, because there has to be a sense of air being pushed through when it's that WH. Why, who, when. So you should be feeling, if you have your hand in front of your mouth, you should be feeling some air, right? Who, when, where, which, white, well. And so I said, it almost sounds like they lead with the H, well, Anyway, I'm always trying to come up with just little tricks to help people remember. Anyway, so we have the ch, which I mentioned has to be a really hard ch. It needs to be very pronounced. It's almost like you're spitting it out. Ch, right? This is not soft. It cannot be confused with the soft sh, the sh, because ship is very different than hip. So we have to be really cognizant that when we want to say chip, we are pushing that air out, and it's almost like you're spitting it out. I told him, I said, you're saying hip, cheap, it, fetch, coke, Pete. So again, on the TOEFL exam that day, we need to be as meticulous as possible in terms of producing these sounds on cue. I'm not so worried about the PH. I just kind of want to be sure that he knows that sphere has the PH, because in Spanish it has an F, esfera. And then the graph, but I mean, I think they're good to go on the PH. The TH, I did mention we have a soft TH, like the word the, and then the hard TH, like the word thanks. And so I said, there's just, you just have to hear the words, like do the thing that you need to do, right? Take a bath, walk a straight path, thank you, and tell the truth. And so on the TH, what I did is I focus on the hard TH, them sticking their tongue out between their teeth. Thank you. Truth, thing, bath, path. Whereas with the soft TH, the soft TH falls behind the teeth. I don't know if you guys have noticed, the soft TH falls behind the teeth. So if you're saying the, you can put your tongue almost behind your teeth. The, the top teeth, I'm sorry. And then when you're saying thanks, that's the hard TH. That is going to fall between like you're going to be pushing your tongue out a little bit and you're almost biting your tongue, thanks, to make that hard TH sound. And so I would say a couple of these words and I'd ask him, is that a soft or is that a hard? And he began distinguishing it. And then we worked on the sh. I said push, ship, chart, cheap. And I try to intentionally, make reference to some words that are the same. They could be confused, right? Because like sheep and cheap and ship and chat and which and wish. So it's hearing those, right, with the soft SH and really distinguishing and having that auditory discretion. Then in the midst of doing all of this, I noticed that they struggled hearing the B and the P. So we worked on this literally for about 20 minutes. So the B is very soft and the P is very crisp. I said the P has to be very crisp. It has to be very tight. P, P, and you're pushing that air out. Whereas with the B, you're just kind of closing your mouth very relaxed. Your lips are touching very relaxed together. Ba, 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 versus the P where you're actually, and he said, I didn't notice the pinch. And I love that because there's like a pinch to the P coming out. And I said, so we're going to work on several words that could be pronounced with a B or a P, and they mean different things. So you can hear the diction and you can see the importance of understanding the two and discriminating the two different sounds. And so, we worked on clot, blot, hen, bin, here, beer, pig, big, hair, bear, bar, bar. So the two of us, we noticed that they were struggling a lot with here and pair and bear and beer. And I think they missed bin. But anyway, they began to note after the third time they got this one right. And they said, okay, I finally noticed the pinch. And I love the way they said that. So I wrote it down. He said, I finally noticed the pinch in the P. I said, yes, the P is very precise. So if you don't say it correctly and you're just, I said, people when they're relaxed and they're around friends, they're not going to speak this meticulously, but that's because they've already had the lessons, they already know, they don't have to pass the TOEFL test, right? But when we do have to pass the TOEFL test, we need to be as meticulous as possible in producing this language and making sure that our diction is clear and not just that, are we hearing the right things? Did I hear him say bear? Did I hear him say pear? Like, what did I hear? And so, yeah, I mean, this is just an example of some of the work that we do in TOEFL. Sometimes it looks like this, Sometimes all we're doing is working on their elaboration of an opinion essay. Like when they come with a lot of this language and all of this competency already mastered, then our conversation is different. And we look at the quality of the writing and the development of their arguments, and then the elaboration and maybe even their use of tier 2 vocabulary. So the conversation is different for every person that comes through.